Good morning, guys. This is our first video of February, and today we're talking about cardiovascular health and, more importantly, just about eating to keep good cardiovascular health. And so today we have 8 tips to keep in mind to help you achieve that or work on your cardiovascular health. The first one being controlling your portion sizes. The second one, eating more fruits and vegetables. The third is selecting whole grains. The fourth is limiting or choosing healthier fats. Number 5 is choosing lean proteins. Number 6 is reducing the sodium that you take in. Number 7 is creating a daily meal pattern or meal plan, planning ahead. And number 8 is indulge or allow yourself to indulge in sweets or snacks every once in a while. Making sure to keep that in moderation. I'll talk just a little bit about each section, a little bit more in detail. Certainly, if you guys have questions or need further information, you can always ask myself or Jennifer, and we'll be happy to answer questions if you're needing to nail down or have some cardiovascular problems that you're really trying to work on. Otherwise, these are just general tips for those of us that may be looking to prevent cardiovascular health and keep a healthy weight, etc. So the first one is making sure that you're choosing portion sizes. If we keep in mind that it's not just about how much or what we're eating, but it's also about how much we're eating, we need to keep in mind that we're choosing more of the low-calorie, high-fiber foods and limit or minimize the amounts of high-calorie, high-fat foods. So keeping in mind that we want to watch the portion sizes, and again, we always recommend that you track those serving sizes so you really know how much that you're taking in. Sometimes it's surprising, even if you do a shot of how you're doing over a 2-week period, it'll be very surprising how much you may be taking in. And it'll make you realize where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are. So we definitely, if you're not an everyday tracker of your food intake, at least take a couple weeks screenshot, see how things are going. Maybe see some areas that you may want to modify. If it's working well and you continue to track, that's great. If you feel like you kind of know where you need to make changes and you lay off of tracking for a while, that's perfectly fine. But giving a good screenshot of where you're at periodically is a very good thing to keep in mind. The next area is eating more fruits and vegetables. And you guys have heard us say that many, many times. Lots of vitamins, minerals, fiber, all of those things will help with minimizing cholesterol accumulation in your blood. That fiber just helps with eliminating those that we don't need. It also, those are good low-calorie sources. So keeping your fruit and vegetable intake at a high level will be very important. Some tips on what fruits and vegetables to choose. You want to choose any fresh or frozen vegetables will be very beneficial. Right now, the frozen ones may be more of a choice, and then in the summer months when they're more readily available, you switch over to fresh, or you may do a combination throughout the year of the fresh and frozen. I want to look for low sodium canned vegetables. If canned vegetables are okay, it's that they add a lot of sodium to those. So look for low sodium canned vegetables. And then if you're doing canned fruits, look for those that are packed in light syrup or packed in their own juice, avoiding those that are packed in heavy syrup. The next area is selecting whole grains. Looking for, again, those fibrous foods will help keep that cholesterol levels down. You want to make sure that you're substituting any of those refined grains. So a list of grains to choose from are your whole wheat flour, whole grain bread, preferably 100% whole wheat bread or 100% whole grain bread, high fiber cereal with 5 grams or more fiber per serving, and whole grains also include brown rice, barley, buckwheat, etc. You may also look for quinoa or barley are also good whole grains as well. The whole grain or the grains that you want to avoid are white refined flours, white breads, muffins, frozen waffles, cornbreads, donuts, and biscuits are ones that you want to avoid, as well as cakes, pies, egg noodles, Buttery popcorn. Popcorn is good. It's the butter that we add to it that makes it not so great. So looking for light butter or no butter would be a good substitution. And then high-fat snack crackers can also creep up on us and have added fats that we want to avoid. Which leads us into our next area, the limit unhealthy fats. We want to limit the amount of saturated and trans fats that we take in. Those are the fats that generally stick in our blood and elevate our cholesterol, so we want to eliminate those. We want to keep saturated fats to around 14 grams or less for most Americans. Depending on your weight and size and age, that may vary just slightly, but around 14 grams of saturated fat or less. And your trans fat, you want to keep 2 grams or less as well. You want to avoid foods that have partially hydrogenated in the label. The best way to look for avoiding saturated and trans fats are avoiding butters, margarines, and shortenings that we add into what we're cooking. Lots of foods have those in there, so if we're adding them in, we're just adding to the problem. So avoiding those. Some foods that are some fats that you do want to try to include are plant-based sources. Those are ones our bodies can utilize a little bit more easily and eliminate the excess that we don't need. So you want to choose fats such as olive or canola oil, margarine that's trans fat free, cholesterol lowering margarine. You can look for Benical, Promise, Active, or Smart Balance, are some of the ones you can look for. Nuts and seeds are good plant-based fats, and avocados. And the ones you want to avoid are butter, lard, bacon fat, gravies, creams, creamy sauces, non-dairy creamers, hydrogenated butter or shortening, coconut butter or cocoa butter found in chocolate, and then coconut, palm, cottonseed, or palm kernel oils are ones that you want to avoid. Those are ones that have higher saturated and trans fats. Moving along, we want to then look at low-fat, lean protein sources. Looking for lean meats, poultries, fish, and dairy products. We want to looking for the leaner cuts of those. Round or loin cuts of meat are generally lower in fat. You can also look for skim milk over whole fat milk. If you're doing whole fat milk, slowly work down to skim milk, just eliminating that extra fat added in those, or that it's kept in those. The skim milk will have that taken out. So to look for those. So looking for low-fat dairies such as skim or low-fat milk, yogurt, and cottage cheese. You want to look for eggs, fish, especially fatty cold water fish such as salmon, skinless poultry, legumes, beans, peas, and lentils add extra fiber. And they're a great plant-based source that you can substitute in place of meat. And then lean ground meats are also a good choice. You want to then move on to reducing the sodium. Most Americans, we would recommend less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. That's roughly a teaspoon of salt. So if you look at the products that it's already in, and then if you were to add salt to those, you would well be over that 2,000 milligrams per day. If you already have high blood pressure or at an elderly age, you may want to need to reduce that further. But right now, we'll stick around that 2,000 to 2,300 milligrams a day of sodium. You want to look for low salt options. So if you do garlic salt, you want to eliminate that. You can use fresh garlic, you can use minced garlic, or you can use garlic powder. Same thing with onion salt. Anything that has salt or sodium in the label, you want to avoid those kinds and use fresh, or you can use the powdered version of those in place of that. Still getting the great flavor, but avoiding that extra salt added. Any fresh or dried herbs and spices, again, just looking to make sure that salt or sodium is not in the label or in the nutrition facts area. Salt substitutes are good. Mrs. Dash has a huge variety of salt substitutes that have a good combination of herbs that you can utilize for many different kinds of cooking. We want to look for, again, the reduced sodium canned products. Looking for fresh or frozen is what your best bet would be. And then same thing with low sodium condiments. Soy sauces, ketchups, etc. will add quite a bit of extra salt to your diet as well. Number 7 is planning ahead. That's one of the main things that I have told patients, recommended for patients over the years that I've been a dietitian. The two most important is planning ahead and portion control. The more you plan ahead, the more successful you'll be with any kind of meal pattern, any kind of changes in your diet, etc. So plan ahead, including those fruits and vegetables, those lean proteins, those whole grains, and minimizing the extra salt and fat in your diet will help make you successful. And finally, keeping in mind that we are all human, that none of us have a magic pill allowing us to make the choices to eliminate those foods that get our craving, whether they're sweet, whether they're salty. So allowing yourself to indulge in one of those treats every once in a while, keeping moderation and control is not a horrible thing. And 9 times out of 10, if you indulge in those, get back on track, not making it where it's a complete slip up and you revolt back to your days of not following those tips. But a small indulgence will probably keep you more on track than if you just go all out and forget about your other rules. So indulge and get right back on track with your next meal or next snack. Not waiting for the next week or even the next month before you get back on track will be key to help keeping you very successful. So again, just a quick review. Control your portion sizes. Eat more fruits and vegetables. Select whole grains. Limit unhealthy fats. Choose low-fat protein sources. Reduce your sodium. Plan ahead. And indulge in moderation to have an occasional treat. Thank you guys. Video questions will be due next week.